Arizona. A city of gleaming glass towers, sprawling suburbs that stretch as far as the eye can see, and skies so impossibly blue they almost hurt to look at, hides beneath its brilliance a quieter, heavier truth. That truth lives in the shadows, under overpasses, in the narrow strips of shade beside abandoned buildings, and within the rows of tents lining streets that many residents deliberately avoid as if turning away could make it disappear. This essay follows that hidden reality, not to judge, not to sensationalize, but to understand. It is written to awaken empathy, inviting readers to see what is far too easy to ignore. The human lives quietly struggling just steps away from the city's shining facades. It forms the emotional backbone of a deeply human documentary about the homeless, built from the stories of those who have endured the desert's harshest trials, who cling to hope and dignity even when the world seems determined to look the other way. The city of sunlight and silence. Phoenix is a city that dazzles in the daylight and glows like molten gold at night. Its skyline rises with the quiet promise of opportunity. Its roads stretch endlessly toward the horizon, and its neighborhoods hum with life, ambition, and dreams. Yet, beneath this gleaming surface, where the sunlight never seems to reach, lies another world, one woven from dust, struggle, and quiet endurance. By 2025, over 9,700 people in Phoenix were experiencing homelessness. That number is far more than a statistic. It represents a constellation of lives fractured by circumstance, illness, sudden loss, or simply 1 month when everything went wrong. Each life carries a story of resilience, pain, and hope precariously balanced against adversity. If you were to stand on Van Buren Street at the first light of dawn, the city would reveal its hidden truth. Dozens of tents appear at first, then hundreds, arranged not for comfort but for survival. You would hear the soft shuffle of bodies waking from nights that were too cold, too dangerous, or too loud. You would notice the weight of every possession carried on backs and shoulders, the fragile bundles of clothing and memories that define a life outdoors. And if you listen closely, you might catch snippets of whispered conversations, lost jobs, missed appointments, sudden rent hikes, fleeting glimmers of hope clinging to sheer determination. The desert here offers no mercy. It does not pause for youth or age, for strength or fragility, for hope or despair. And yet, every morning, without exception, those who live on these streets rise to meet it again, a quiet testament to courage in a place that refuses to forgive weakness, where the heat becomes an enemy. In Phoenix, the sun is not merely a source of warmth. It is a relentless force, a test of the very limits of human endurance. During the peak of summer, temperatures soar to 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Asphalt softens beneath your feet. Plastic water bottles warp in your hands. Skin can burn in mere minutes. For those with a home, the heat is an inconvenience, a discomfort to be escaped in air-conditioned rooms. For those living outdoors, it is a threat, immediate, unrelenting, and inescapable. Water transforms into the most precious resource, more valuable than food, more vital than sleep. Every day, people walk miles in search of shade, of a cold sip of water, or a brief respite where their bodies can cool just enough to survive another hour under the desert sun. But the cruelty of the desert does not end with sunset. At night, the searing heat fades, replaced by a biting cold that feels almost punitive in its contrast. A single thin blanket becomes a lifeline. A cardboard sheet, a makeshift mattress, a street corner, the only bedroom they can claim. It is in these hours that isolation presses hardest. The city slumbers, streets empty, and the silence itself feels like a wall, closing in. Yet, even within this solitude, stories persist, stories of resilience, of fleeting moments of connection, of human kindness that refuse to be erased. These stories rarely make headlines, yet they form the emotional backbone of every authentic documentary about the homeless, capturing courage, dignity, and the quiet strength of those the city has overlooked. Stories hidden behind tarps and tent walls. Behind every tent flap lies a life story. Some stretch across decades, woven with memories of stability and love. Others unravel suddenly, snapped by one unforeseen crisis. While the circumstances differ, a common truth emerges. Most people cannot comprehend how quickly life can change until they feel stability slip through their fingers. There is Maria, a mother who once lived in a modest apartment with her young son. When the building was sold and rent skyrocketed, her paycheck could no longer keep pace. Within 3 months, eviction came. Today, she tells bedtime stories to her child inside a small tent, using her voice as a shield against the sounds outside. The heated arguments, the wailing sirens, the echo of footsteps through the night. Her stories become both comfort and resistance, a way to preserve innocence amid chaos. There is James, who sleeps in his truck behind a mechanic shop. Even without a roof over his head, he rises before dawn each morning to hand out granola bars to those who have even less. If I have two, he says, someone else has to have one. His generosity, quiet yet unwavering, illustrates that even in hardship, humanity can flourish. There is Aisha, an artist who sketches portraits of those around her, capturing faces the world often forgets. Through her charcoal lines, she preserves dignity, identity, and hope, a testament that beauty and resilience can survive even in the harshest conditions. Maria, James, Aisha, and countless others remind us that homelessness is not a distant, separate world. It is a mirror reflecting what happens when society's safety nets fail, when rents outpace wages, when a single medical bill can topple a family, when support systems buckle under the weight of demand. They also remind us that dignity does not vanish simply because a home does. These lives, their courage, and their perseverance form the emotional core of every meaningful documentary about the homeless, illuminating the humanity, strength, and hope that persist even in the shadows. The roots of crisis. Homelessness rarely arrives as a sudden, isolated event. More often, it is a cascade, a chain reaction of circumstances, where each small misfortune adds weight until a person can no longer stay afloat. In Phoenix, the housing crisis lies at the heart of this struggle. For every 100 low-income families, there are only 25 affordable rental units. Even a modest one-bedroom apartment commands rents of $1,800, $1,900 per month, while wages stagnate, leaving little room for error. A single missed paycheck, one unexpected hospital bill, or an unanticipated rent hike can push someone from a stable home into a tent, a car, or the unrelenting streets. The city expands relentlessly. Luxury apartments rise like monuments to prosperity, yet the very people who built them cannot afford to live within their walls. Gentrification quietly displaces longtime residents, while bans on rent control strip cities of the tools needed to keep families housed. The system seems almost designed to let people slip through the cracks, and those who fall rarely land on anything soft. Mental health care is limited, addiction services are stretched beyond capacity, and shelters cannot keep pace with demand. When a person succumbs to addiction, vulnerability deepens. When someone loses a job, a family, or even hope, there is no buffer, only the harsh reality of life outdoors. These structural failures form the backbone of the crisis. Without recognizing them, we cannot fully understand the stories that unfold on every street corner. Each tent, each makeshift bed, each sleeping bag tells the story of a person navigating a system stacked against them, trying to preserve dignity and life amidst chaos. This awareness is the heartbeat of a documentary about the homeless. It challenges viewers not to judge, but to see clearly the forces conspiring against those already struggling, and to recognize the humanity behind every statistic. Shadows and the hidden struggles. Amid the rows of tents, there are battles that few ever witness. Substance abuse, untreated mental illness, and social marginalization walk hand in hand, forming an invisible maze of struggle for those living outdoors. Fentanyl-related deaths in Maricopa County have more than doubled since 2019, a chilling reflection of how deeply addiction has taken root within the homeless community. Nearly 3/4 of those living on the streets wrestle with substance use, while roughly half face untreated mental health challenges, their suffering often invisible to the passing eye. Daily life becomes an intricate negotiation for survival. People move quietly from one corner to another to avoid police sweeps. They create fragile micro-communities for protection, sharing what little they have, a piece of bread, a worn blanket, or a few words of encouragement. Every day is a gamble, a precarious balance between fear, exhaustion, and the faint hope of a reprieve. Fires flicker in the distance, arguments flare, and yet, amid this chaos, moments of humanity persist. A warm meal is offered without question. A single sock is given to shield feet from the scorching pavement. A simple nod conveys recognition and respect, silent yet brimming with meaning. This duality, despair and resilience, vulnerability and courage, lies at the heart of what makes a documentary about the homeless so vital. It reminds viewers that behind every statistic, there is a person. Behind every tent, a life. And behind every shadow, a story longing to be seen, understood, and remembered. Glimmers of hope. Even amid the relentless desert heat, hope persists. Change may arrive slowly, almost imperceptibly, but it exists, fueled by compassion, creativity, and a steadfast belief in human dignity. By 2025, Arizona had invested over $13 million in eviction, prevention, and homelessness response programs. These efforts go far beyond providing a place to sleep. New shelters offer comprehensive support, legal assistance to navigate complex systems, mental health care to heal unseen wounds, job training to reclaim independence, and communal spaces where people can feel seen and valued. Phoenix has pioneered innovative navigation centers, some created from converted shipping containers, providing climate-controlled rooms where residents can regain stability and prepare for life beyond the streets. Nonprofit organizations, such as A New Leaf and Keys to Change, labor tirelessly to restore dignity and opportunity. They guide individuals toward employment, recovery, and reintegration into society. Mobile outreach teams traverse the city, delivering food, water, and medical aid directly to those still living on the streets. A reminder that meaningful support is not always about buildings, but about human presence, acknowledgement, and care. These initiatives are more than temporary relief. They are beacons of possibility, shining even in the darkest corners of the city. Each small success, a family kept from eviction, a person connected to treatment, a child sleeping safely through the night, becomes a thread in the larger tapestry of a documentary about the homeless. Together, these stories illustrate that society can act, that empathy can take concrete form, and that lives, once overlooked, can be saved, nurtured, and transformed. Acts of courage and resilience. Resilience takes shape in ways both ordinary and extraordinary. Amid the hardships of life on the streets, people forge small but powerful micro-communities. They share what little they have, a meal, a blanket, a comforting word, and watch over each other in ways invisible to outsiders. Laughter mingles with grief, and moments of celebration punctuate the quiet struggle, proving that even in scarcity, humanity endures. Some acts are simple yet profound. A mother shielding her child from the harsh night, a neighbor lending a worn jacket to someone shivering under the stars, a stranger quietly offering a sandwich. Others are remarkable in their depth. A man sleeping in his car still rises each morning to volunteer for those with even less. An artist sketches the faces that society has long forgotten. A family clings to faith and hope despite repeated setbacks. These stories teach us that resilience is not the absence of hardship, but the ability to continue living with dignity, courage, and purpose in its presence. They form the emotional core of the narrative, compelling viewers to look beyond appearances and connect with a humanity that thrives even in the darkest circumstances. This enduring spirit of perseverance, compassion, and mutual care lies at the heart of every documentary about the homeless. Such documentaries aim not merely to inform, but to awaken empathy, stir conscience, and inspire action, reminding us that the human capacity to endure and uplift one another is never lost, even in the face of immense struggle. Personal reflections. Walking among the forgotten. Walking through the streets of Phoenix at night, the city reveals a rhythm invisible by day. The air cools, yet the streets remain alive with quiet, persistent struggles. Shadows stretch across cracked concrete, and soft voices rise from corners where people huddle together for warmth and safety. Each face tells a story, some clinging to faith, others clinging to the next hour, each heartbeat echoing the fragile line between survival and surrender. Meeting individuals like Maria, James, and Aisha transforms abstract statistics into living, breathing realities. Maria's tenderness as she shields her child from the harshness of the night, James's unwavering selflessness despite his own hardships, and Aisha's dedication to honoring forgotten lives through her art. These moments resonate far deeper than any number on a report. They carry a weight, an emotional gravity that no chart or statistic could ever convey. It is here, amid the quiet struggle and fleeting moments of connection, that a profound lesson emerges. Homelessness is not a distant, separate world. It is a mirror, reflecting what happens when society's compassion falters, but also illuminating the potential for human connection, empathy, and action. In this space, between despair and hope, the true heart of a documentary about the homeless beats loudest, compelling viewers not merely to watch, but to feel, to reflect, and to respond, to recognize the humanity that persists even when the world looks away. The broader impacts of homelessness. Homelessness does not exist in isolation. Its effects ripple far beyond the streets, where tents line the sidewalks and car windows serve as bedrooms. It is a quiet storm, shaking the foundations of health, economy, and social cohesion, touching lives both directly and indirectly. Without access to consistent care, chronic illnesses worsen. Diabetes spirals out of control, heart conditions become life-threatening, respiratory issues fester, and mental health disorders go untreated. Minor ailments can escalate into emergencies, placing enormous strain on hospitals, first responders, and community health systems. Every untreated illness is more than a personal tragedy. It is a societal burden. Municipalities spend millions each year on cleanups, emergency responses, and policing. These reactive measures, while necessary in the short term, divert funds from preventative solutions such as affordable housing, accessible healthcare, and comprehensive social programs. The resources expended on maintaining the status quo could instead be invested in preventing people from falling into homelessness in the first place. Repeated exposure to homelessness can desensitize residents, dulling empathy and eroding the bonds that hold communities together. Neighborhoods fracture between those with security and those without. Loneliness, invisibility, and fear become routine companions for the unhoused, their daily lives marked by a struggle for recognition and dignity. Yet, amid these immense challenges, acts of kindness persist. Volunteers hand out blankets in the cold, neighbors share meals, and strangers acknowledge the humanity of those living on the streets with a nod, a smile, or a gentle word. These gestures, however small, ripple outward, affecting both the lives of individuals and the communities around them. This interconnected web of impact underscores the urgent need for awareness, empathy, and action, a central theme of every meaningful documentary about the homeless. It reminds viewers that homelessness is not just an individual struggle, but a societal mirror, reflecting both the vulnerabilities and the resilience within our shared humanity. Stories of transformation and recovery. Phoenix is not without hope. Amid the tents and hardships, programs, shelters, and nonprofits are quietly transforming lives, offering not just relief, but a path towards stability and dignity. Eviction prevention funds, emergency shelters, and supportive housing give families and individuals a chance to regain footing, providing safety, structure, and a place to rebuild. Mobile outreach teams traverse the city, delivering medical care, counseling, and vital resources directly to those still living on the streets, showing that support can reach even the most marginalized. Nonprofit organizations go further, teaching skills, offering legal aid, and fostering community. They empower individuals to reclaim agency over their lives, to find work, reconnect with society, and rebuild a sense of purpose. These initiatives prove that change is possible when society acts collectively, and that homelessness is never merely a personal failure or moral flaw. It is a societal challenge that can be addressed through empathy, commitment, and coordinated action. Through these stories of recovery, the human spirit shines brightest. Acts of perseverance, generosity, and courage ripple through each encounter, offering hope not only to those directly affected, but to the broader community witnessing them. This is the power of a documentary about the homeless. It captures both struggle and triumph, exposing the depth of hardship while celebrating resilience. It leaves viewers moved, educated, and inspired to act, reminding us all that lives can be restored, Dignity can be reclaimed, and hope can flourish, even in the harshest deserts of Phoenix. Conclusion. A call to conscience. Phoenix gleams under the relentless desert sun, its glass towers reflecting light and ambition, yet beneath the city's brilliance lie countless untold stories. Homelessness is not simply the absence of a roof or walls. It is the erosion of visibility, voice, and connection. Each person without a home embodies resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, but also exposes society's blind spots, the ways in which comfort and convenience can blind us to suffering just steps away. Every time we pass someone on the street, we are confronted with a choice: to look away or to look closer. Compassion is not weakness. It is the invisible thread that binds communities together. Real change does not require billion-dollar budgets or sweeping reforms. It begins with awareness, with small acts of kindness, with the courage to speak up when others remain silent. Volunteer your time, support local outreach, offer a meal, a blanket, a listening ear. Every act, no matter how small, can create a ripple of hope that extends far beyond the immediate moment. The stories of Maria, James, Aisha, and thousands more remind us that homelessness is not a distant other. It is a mirror of our shared humanity. It reflects both the fragility of life and the enduring strength of the human spirit. And it is a reflection that demands attention, empathy, and action. This essay, like a documentary about the homeless, exists not to shock or sensationalize, but to awaken. It calls on every reader and viewer to recognize the unseen, validate the unheard, and illuminate the lives of those still searching for light in the darkness. Because when we act, when we care, when we choose to truly see, we ensure that no one in Phoenix or anywhere else has to face the night alone.